shit is real, my shit is raw, my shit is authentic.
Okay, hello, welcome to the third episode of The Abstract Next Door. I'm your host, Maya. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a long time. It's been a month. The weeks just kind of flew by, and I hope you guys can forgive me for taking so long to come here and record this third episode. What happened? The past month I've been feeling kind of stuck, lethargic, not really in the greatest headspace to come sit here and speak about all the things that I wanted to talk about. Mind you, right after I recorded the second episode, I already knew what this third episode was going to be like. So it's not like I didn't know what to come here with. I don't think I'll ever run out of things to come on here to talk about. But I just felt stuck and I didn't really quite know how to continue with all the wonderful things that I'm doing right now, including this podcast. So it took me a while to be in a place where I could sit here and speak. And, I'm in a place right now where I'm only doing things when it feels good to me, and I only do things that feel good to me. And so I kind of just trust that, and I'm learning to have a blind trust for that because I know now that anything that feels good, it's in alignment with my divine self, my authentic self. And if it doesn't feel good, then it's not in alignment. And I don't ever want to come here and show up as anything but my best self, because I understand that I have a responsibility with my words and the things that I put out there, and I take that very seriously. So I would never come in here and give you guys anything less. So I'm here now. I feel good about it. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for, taking the time to listen. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who's been listening. I know that last episode was kind of dense. There was a lot of information there, but it was, to me, I think that was my favorite episode. We're only 3 deep right now. That was my favorite episode, all about the sacral. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe you guys needed that time, that month to kind of process that. So everything for a reason, right? On the topic of feeling stuck and feeling, it manifests in different ways. It could show up as procrastination. It could show up as what we like to call laziness. I try not to use that word. I think laziness is just another word for just saying that there's a block there, something blocking from you doing all the things that you either need to do or want to do. And I think that's an interesting theme given the wonderful possibilities of creativity that are alive right now. I'm seeing a lot of people in my life, in my family, in my group, pursuing all these beautiful creative paths. And sometimes we feel stuck. And there's a lot of us who have had so many ideas, so many dreams that kind of go against the grain, against what we've been led to believe we should do in our adulthood. And so we don't pursue them because we're fearful of, being vulnerable, because I feel like tapping into your creative space does take a high level of vulnerability, some more than others. Like I always commend artists, especially. That is a very vulnerable place, especially singing and anything that's very vocal. It's very vulnerable. And that leads me back to that feeling of being stuck. So I actually had a beautiful dream. I was feeling stuck for weeks and weeks and weeks. couldn't quite figure out how to piece things together in some of my endeavors. Couldn't even, like, I'd wake up in the morning, I wouldn't even know what to do with my day, even though my to-do list was quite long. I wouldn't even know where to start. And so I felt this blockage, and I had this beautiful dream one day, and it just shifted everything. And I'm going to tell you about the dream, but for some people, it might not seem like much. But for me, it meant everything. So in this dream, I was singing at someone's wedding. I don't sing. I'm not a singer. But I was singing at someone's wedding, and I was singing beautifully. Like the words coming out of my mouth sounded wonderful. And I was so proud of myself in this dream. So I kept on singing. I didn't even want to stop singing. Anyways, every time I tell someone this dream, they always ask me, "Oh, whose wedding was it?" But that's not important. What's important is that I was singing, and I was singing well, which is very unlikely in reality. But in my dream, I was singing beautifully, and I started singing a song that I actually did perform many, many years ago, when I was actually singing at the time. And it was Ave Maria, but it was Beyonce's version of Ave Maria. And I sang this in front of, I'd say like a medium crowd. I'd say probably like 30, 40 people. And I did sing it very well that day, and I was very happy with it. Did I feel nervous? Yes, because singing just comes from a place where it just feels like you're exposed. I think anyone who sings feels that way, even if they're very confident in their voice. It's those, you get those jitters before you go on stage. And prior to singing, I was always a dancer. I've been dancing for most of my life. So I'm used to performing in front of a large crowd of hundreds and thousands of people. That's what I'm used to. But somehow singing in front of a crowd of just 30, 40 people, damn, like, it almost hurts my heart to think about it right now. So I actually performed Ave Maria many years ago, and in my dream, I was singing this song. So I know the song word for word. I know all the lyrics. In my dream, I couldn't remember the lyrics, and I remember saying that out loud in my dream. So anyways, fast forward, I wake up the next morning, and that was the only thing I could remember. Is I was performing Ave Maria at someone's wedding, and I couldn't remember the words. And that prompted me to search up the lyrics of the song, because it was going to kill me if I couldn't remember the lyrics. I searched up the lyrics, and there's a little passage there where Beyonce says something like, sometimes life can pass you by when you're busy making plans. And I read that, and it just sent shivers right down my spine. And I'm telling you guys this story, and to you it might not seem like much, but to me it literally removed all the blockages that was making me feel stuck and feeling lethargic. And literally that whole day I felt so much lighter, and I knew exactly what I needed to do to pursue all these different pathways of creativity that I had started before this little period of being stuck. So I said all that to say that your highest self, God, angels, your guides, the universe, all of these entities that are here to guide you and protect you and love and nurture you are gonna communicate to you in ways that only you can understand. They know exactly what language to use with you so that you can pick up on those wonderful messages that could help you in your future or help you remove those blockages. And that's exactly what that dream was to me. So for you, it might not mean much, but to me, it was communicated so clearly why I was feeling stuck, what I needed to do to remove that blockage in my life, and that's all I needed to understand and to know for right then and there. And that's not for anyone else to understand. That was for me to understand and for me to interpret it that way. And that's all that matters. And it really I felt so much lighter. And that dream is why I could even come here and sit and speak here today. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there. It's up to you to be open to receive those messages. It's up to you to, you know, intentionally find all the synchronicities in your day, in your dreams, whichever way, you get these forms of communication from. It's up to you to be open to receiving those messages and being open to surrendering to them and listening to them and following through with them whichever way you need to. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. But today what I wanted to talk about for this third episode is I wanted to talk about value. This came to me immediately after we recorded the second episode. Actually, before I even start, bring it back. So many people have been complimenting me on my voice, and I'm so happy you guys like my voice because I try not to think too hard about my own voice. If you like my voice on this podcast, it's thanks to Mr. Ryan Blades. He's the one who mixes my podcast. The warmth, the smoothness, everything that you're hearing right now that doesn't make your ears hurt, it's because of him. He's amazing. If you have anything that has anything to do with audio, I suggest going to him. He also mixes, he masters, tracking engineer, he does it all. He's amazing. No one does it better than him. So if you like the way I sound on this podcast, that's thanks to him. Ryan Blades, go to him for all your audio. Anyways, yeah, had to plug that in there. Anyways, back to value. So, you're going to hear me mention a lot about how we all have our own different perceptions of reality. They're our own truths, but they don't need to stay the truth. Our truths can change as we grow older, as we grow wiser, as we experience different things. And that is very important when we talk about our self-value. I find myself feeling like I need to prove my importance to everyone in my life, my friends, my partner, my parents. I need to prove to them that I am of some sort of value, and that manifests in different ways with different people. So for me personally, I will overextend myself to the people closest to me. I'll overcompensate, give more of myself than I have to give, and I'll even give them more of me than I even give to myself. And that's because I want to be of importance to them, but I am not proving to myself my own importance because I'm not showing up for myself the way that I need to. And it doesn't matter how much I give to people, it always returns back as it wasn't good enough, or you didn't do enough, or if you did do something, you didn't do it properly anyways, so you're not good enough, and then that translates to you're not important enough. And so the lesson there is, it doesn't matter how important or how valuable I am to others if I truly in my heart don't believe that I am valuable just as myself as is, without doing anything. And I see this a lot where people, we do these grand gestures just so people can see our own value. And those are the people that always end up feeling hurt, because them doing that just kind of speaks to how valueless they actually feel in their hearts, in themselves. And I have been one of those people. And I see it a lot in just people around me. And it's painful to feel that all the time. And so when you don't feel valuable within yourself, you start to attract all these people who validate that for you. And I see this misconception all the time, especially in regards to and I don't really want to talk about relationships too much right now, but I see this a lot, especially with women and the men that they attract. It's as if a woman doesn't attract men who treat them correctly, that has something to do with their own value. And I really want to cut that out, because that's actually not the issue. The issue is women have been trained to believe that if they don't do this, that, and the third, they are of no value. And so have men. If men don't do this, that, and the third, they are of no value. And so this kind of theme gets played out in relationships constantly. And not just in relationships with, romantic relationships, but also in friendships, within family, and there's always that one family member that does everything for everyone, but very few people do the same for them. And that has everything to do with their feelings of being valueless. And that's just the way it plays out. We overcompensate by giving more than we can to others, and it never gets reciprocated, because they're showing us exactly what we believe in our heart, and that is that we are of very little value, or very little significance, or very little importance. So it gets played out constantly in our relationships. We actually choose people in our lives who can validate that truth for us. And that just brings me back to what I said in the first episode, is humans, we just love to be right about the wrong things. Why would anyone want to be right about being valueless? So it's time to kind of let those ideas go and try to start reframing our own views, our own perceptions about ourselves. And so you look at the people around you, you look at, maybe the partners you've chose, you look at the friendships that you've had in the past or even still have. You look at your family dynamics and some of the themes that constantly play out. And you'll see that your worst fears and your worst insecurities about yourself get played out constantly in these relationships. Now, is that to say we should start getting rid of our relationships when people don't make us feel validated or don't make us feel valuable? That's not what I'm saying, because you can let go of those people and you're just going to replace them with people who do the exact same, because it starts with you, no one else. Every perception you have about your reality starts and ends with you. It doesn't matter who's in your life. So I really also want to cut that idea out that I believe this because of my parents, or I do this because my friends treat me this way, or if men didn't treat me like this, then I wouldn't have to be like that. That's not going to do anything but continue the cycle of feeling valueless, continuing the cycle of feeling less than you actually are. It really all starts with you. And so you start to look at people and they become literal reflections of yourself. And they'll start to validate, they'll start to show you who you are. And we are all multifaceted. We all have different shades and colors to us, and we all have different sides. Some are some emanate beautiful light, and some emanate their darkness, and and that's okay. And I really want us to learn to embrace all facets, all sides of ourselves, because that makes you who you are. And that is the most, you don't want to change your essence. So once we start to have compassion, we start to love all the different sides to ourselves, and we see it And we see those sides play out in our encounters with the people in our life, or even encounters with strangers, or just anytime we have an encounter with someone else, they are reflecting back to us who we are or who we believe ourselves to be, because that can change. And it's all about recognizing that and knowing exactly where it comes from, where it stems from within yourself. So certain dynamics play out all the time with certain people, and we think it's on them, and really the onus is on ourselves. They are reflecting back to us who we believe ourselves to be right now. Even with certain things that you don't like in others, you'll find that a lot of the things that you don't like in other people are things that you don't like about yourself. And so that is a very important thing to tap into and recognize and understand before we react to people. And that's something I'm learning, because I can be quite reactive. If someone says something to me that strikes a nerve, like myself and like any other person, the natural thing to do is to react back, to give them exactly what they're giving you. And so it just kind of goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we can nip that in the bud when you start to realize that this person is reflecting a side of who you are, and you may not like that side, but having compassion and loving that person and loving yourself anyways, because if someone is reflecting back to who you are, by giving them love, you're also giving yourself love. By giving yourself love, you're also giving them love. And so recognizing that this dynamic is being played out in real time is one of the many ways you can start to build compassion within yourself, and therefore compassion for others. And so you'll start to realize as well that the way you treat people says a lot about how you treat yourself, and says a lot about how you see yourself. So, you think about people who are very critical of others, judgmental. It's very easy to see how the verbiage that they use onto others is actually how they speak to themselves within their head. And so you have compassion for that person. You also start to have compassion for yourself, because you realize that all the things that I dislike in other people, I actually have. And all the things that I love in other people, I am as well. So it's not all the bad, but it's also a lot of the good. But we tend to focus on the bad a lot, because our brains are literally trained to see bad so that we can protect ourselves and prevent it from happening in the future. Our brains are literally wired that way, but you can make a conscious effort to start to see the good in other people and start to see the good in yourself as well. So on the subject of being valuable, once you start to see your true value, void of any other person or any external factors, anything of the things that you have or the things that you own or the things that you're doing, aside from all that, your true value, when it's just you, void of all the things that you can do for others, void of all the things that all the talents you may have, just you yourself showing up exactly as you are with nothing else. Once you start to see your own value, you'll find that a different dynamic will start to happen with the people in your life. They'll actually start communicating back to you your own value. And maybe they won't change. Maybe nothing about the people around you changes, but you'll start to pick up on, you'll start to focus more, you'll start to see more all the ways in which they value you. And those little subtle instances where before you would have perceived as you not being of any importance won't happen anymore, because that's not a language that you speak. That's not a language that you use in your head anymore. In your head, in your mind, and in your heart, you are valuable. So anything that communicates the opposite of that, you won't even hear it, you won't even see it, you won't even perceive it that way, period. So it's not so much about changing the people around you, and it's not so much about people acting differently towards you. Once you start to change your own perception of reality, then everything will start to validate that reality, that you are valuable, that you are important enough, that you do enough. And so an example of this is sometimes you have to understand that you are not everyone's messenger. So you are not here to speak to everybody, especially me. I obviously I started a podcast, so I love talking, but I really find I feel valuable when I can say something that speaks to somebody, if it inspires them or if it makes them feel loved or it makes them feel seen. That is very gratifying for me to do, to give that, because I believe that is one of my purposes here, is to make people feel loved and to guide them in their journeys of healing and self-love. I've always wanted to do that. So I find myself valuable when I can give that to others. But sometimes with the people that I love most, or the people closest to me, they're not trying to hear that from me. And that's because the people closest to us, they have their own narratives about us, because they've seen us at our worst. They've seen us in darkness. They've seen us in light. They've seen us when we're acting out past trauma. They've seen us when we're being our best selves. They've seen us when, we're acting out of fear, and when we're powerful and we're empowered. So they created their own narrative about us based off of the things that they've seen, and they have every right to do that. But what happens is they're not always going to want to hear it from you, and you can't always speak the language that they need to hear to understand it. And so to me, what I used to take that as is, this person doesn't think that I'm important. This person doesn't value me enough to listen to me. They'd rather listen to this person, not person, these people who to me are strangers, than someone who actually loves and adores them and, lives, eats, and breathes with this person. They'd rather listen to everybody else. But when you really love yourself, and when you really love the people around you, that's okay. The important part is that they got the message. If not from you, then from somewhere else. And so we start to tell ourselves that we're not important, we're not valuable enough, when we're not everyone's messenger, and that's okay. You will speak in another person's language, and you will say exactly what another person needs to hear, because you are their messenger, and that's good enough, and that's okay. Also, if someone, let's say you never really know for sure, because it's really none of your business what people think about you. If people truly in their hearts don't think that you are valuable at all, or they don't think that you're important enough, it shouldn't matter to you at all if you really think that you are important and you are valuable. So that's another thing that starts to dissipate once you actually start to focus on your own value, is it really won't matter what other people feel. You won't even care that much, and you won't even pay attention to it. And so those people will start to fall out of your life, because that dynamic has been severed. Some relationships only exist to play out that dynamic. And when that dynamic is now taken out, then so will the relationship. And that happens naturally. We actually don't have to do anything except just focus our work internally. And it's very clear how we can give ourselves that feeling of being valuable and feelings of being validated to ourselves, and we don't actually need anyone to give that to us. So yeah, that's what I wanted to come in here and speak about. I think that's it for now. I know this is much shorter than last week. I am going to try and be more consistent with coming in here. I'm sure anyone who's as sensitive as I am to other people's energies, I'm trying to shorten my recovery time when I get into those down spaces, and it is working. Whatever I'm doing is working because, sometimes I'd be down for like years, and so now it's kind of shortening. So I want to feel good enough to come in here and speak to you guys every week. And so that is my goal. So I think this is good for today. Again, please let me know what you get from each episode. I love when you guys message me and tell me how you felt, how it made you feel. Um, I know this one's a little bit shorter than some of the other two episodes, but it's short and sweet and simple. And I'll get back to you guys next time. So thanks for listening and have a wonderful evening. Good night.